Shalom, shalom, Yashara, shalom, shalom, Ashpaka, shalom, shalom. Hope everybody's having a good, hope everybody had a good, what are we on? Second day, going into the third day, fourth day right now, Wednesday. So praise Yah for the week, because it's moving by really fast. I just remember Sabbath felt like yesterday, and now we're already into the fourth day. So praise Yah for that. Just wanted to give a word of exhortation on something that Abba Yahuwah has been leading me in, and basically it's to have a full understanding on what it means to be a whore and how not to be one. Like, what is a whore and how not to be one. And I didn't realize, exactly how Yahuwah our Rabbi was leading me at first, but then I started picking up on it, and so we got some scriptures we got to read first and break down, and so we'll jump right in. But first, let's go ahead and start with a little prayer. Abba Yahuwah, Elohim Most High, Creator of Shamayim and Eretz, Kadash be your name. Let your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is perfectly done in the Shamayim. Give us this day our daily bread, your word and your will for our chai for this day, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us, and lead us not into temptation. Do not let us be led into temptation, trial, or destruction, but deliver us from the wicked schemes of the enemy. For yours, Abba Yahuwah, is the eternal kingdom, the power, and the kabod esteem. And YAHUSHA Mashiach, our Adon, our Elohim, our King of Kings, and our Prince of Peace, and our Kohan Hagadol, forever and ever. Aman and Aman and Aman. Hallelujah, YAHUSHA. Praise Yah. Forgive me if I'm a little slow in my speaking. It is like 1:30, almost 2 in the morning. But I feel like it's a word that's been on my heart for the past couple days, and felt like it was in my ruach, and I don't want to quench it. Just want to go ahead and just get it out while it's, in its prime, so I don't stay tossing and turning all night. So we're gonna turn to Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, chapter 2. So Yirmiyahu chapter 2, for those of you who want to follow along. Jeremiah chapter 2. And before I get started, I'm going to give just a real quick little testimony, like a little quick introduction on, how I was getting this. So I've been kind of, going through situations where, I'm sort of like caught in the middle between, two different, not necessarily opposing parties, but I'm just a part of, like, let's just say a certain department. And, so in that sense, I have a certain duty to that department. Back in the day, let's just say, like, if it was work, right? I'm the kind of guy that I want to help everybody out. You know what I mean? I see someone from another area, trying to do some heavy lifting. I'm going to go over there, run over there, and help him pick it up, carry it, and help him do his job. And that to me is love. But then I'm also learning, where I'm at now in my maturity in Yahusha, is that, we're assigned a certain department. We're assigned to a certain position, and we're also assigned to loyalty and commitment. The mashpaka, the house first. And I'm starting to realize that. I never really understood that concept. And it's sort of like a gang mentality. Like, you have your clique, right? Your you're like obedient, you're loyal to that clique, you have pride in it. You know, it's not just easy to just like bring someone in. You know, you have to like, they have to prove themselves, right? Show themselves worthy. You know, they got to hang around for a while, make sure they're receivable, they're on the same track, they're along the same lines. You know, being guided by the same ruach, but there's the same, you know, yoking of behavior, of attitude, and all that kind of thing goes into it, and character and all that. And so, you know, but back in the day, I was a whore. Let's just get to the root of the message. You know, who has been showing me that what a spiritual whore is somebody that'll run to every part, any group, and, you know, in the name of love. They think that it's in the name of love, that they're just trying to be friendly with everybody. But as you grow into maturity in this walk, and it's at a certain point, who has to call you to this, but maybe some of y'all haven't been called to that yet. Not to say that you're less significant or you're not less mature. Not to say that you're any less mature. Just that maybe Yahuwah still has a purpose for you, to use you in the world still. But then once he's seen that, not that he's seen anything, that you're growing and that you're now becoming ready, you just weren't before, but it's just time, you know. You've done your work, you've paid your dues, you know, he's ready to bring you into the core of the fold. You know, it's like, imagine like you have a house, right? Everybody camps together at like a certain community, but then you send out your evangelists, your disciples, your talmudim, to go out and try to preach and reach and teach the word and try to gather some lost sheep. And so in the Ruach, Yahuwah does that. Well, when you're out there reaching the lost sheep, your duty is to engage and be friendly and you know, kind of, you know, be in the world but don't be of it. But then there comes a time where in the Ruach, it's time to come home. It's time to come back to the headquarters, come back to, you know, the community, you know, in the Ruach. We may not be physically dwelling amongst each other, but he'll put that sense of, you know, coming back, being centered with just your mashpakah, your home, and find them, because I'm still really trying to find mine, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be a part of the same body, and yet a lot of us want to argue about little things. Want to argue about whatever, and that's not real family. I got brothers and sisters out here in the streets that are more family, in you know, in many ways, to be honest. Yeah, I've been getting dehydrated. It's been hot out here lately. But yeah, you know, it's like I'm ready to be like, come to back to the headquarters, the community, the fold, loyal, stand strong in the camp, in the Ruach. Like we should already have this established, but we don't. But Yahuwah is showing me that at least he's preparing me, he's training me. And so I'm just speaking, you know, of what's to come. But basically what's to come is that door is shutting. You know, that door of like preaching to the Gentiles or to the, you know, non-believers, because why? Because their hearts are getting hardened, their minds are being made up, they're being seared in their conscience, the hearts are waxing cold. You know, he's been having me literally in a state of like, just stop and observe what's really going on. And, you know, as I get in the depths of listening to the air, like in the atmosphere of the energy people are projecting, I can sense the potency of where they're at and their life. And what I'm sensing is, and when it comes to the word of Yah, in terms of that, they just don't care. That's just not real to them. That's just not where they're at. That's not it. And you can sense when you just stop and listen and hear them. You know, a lot of people, that's almost like that's not gonna ever happen for them. That they've already made up their mind. You hear it in the tone. They're excited. They're fine with where they're at. They're content with where they're at. They love the noise in the background, the many beautiful sounds of life, according to them. You know, there's so many little, you know what I'm saying? And there's so many feel-good sounds that are near and dear and warm in our hearts from this world. You know, we all have them growing up. The morning news, you know, whatever it is, everybody's got their fix they'd like to hear. And that's to filter out the sound, the void of, you know, empty, you know, no life, no high, no real ruah, no eternal high, no, sort of like there to void out the space of what is out there, because it's like the void of death, you know. I can't explain it. It's like, not death, that don't sounds dark, but I mean, basically, let's not sugarcoat it. It's basically death. And so we had to make it, we had to hit, like, I want noise, right? We want to beat the drums and make some noise, make some sound, because we want to filter the silence, because to be alone with our thoughts or face reality, we don't want to think about YAHUSHA, you know, the world. I'm speaking like in the world when I was able, like, you know, as Yahuwah's allowed me to, you know, see things their way. But that's why they get so offended when we bring it up, because that is the last thing they're trying to hear. In the subconscious way, they are doing everything to not hear about it. But it's manifested through best life now, having a good time. Let's party, let's shoot the crap and talk crap and whatever, and just party like it's 1999. And but subconsciously, a lot of that's being unknowingly fueled by trying to avoid the truth that there's a judgment coming, YAHUSHA. So that's like, let's go out with a bang. That's the reason why, if the world searches their heart, they'll realize that's why they get so offended. They're getting offended on the spur when it comes up. Hey man, we don't want to hear that, because they know it's coming subconsciously, and they want to be able to, in some sense, maybe even say, well, no one told me, YAHUSHA, like, how was I supposed to know? Because they're actually thinking carnally. They think that they're going to be able to escape the judgment, that YAHUSHA's going to give them some kind of free pass, like we're just, like he's going to judge them like according to man's standards, and they can just tell them, how was I supposed to know? No one told me. So in order to make that true, they got to shut up the prophets. You know, we start to say something that, hey bro, nah, hey, we're at work, we don't talk about that here. And they say, no one told me. I don't know. I mean, you can't do that here at work. Yeah, once upon a time we could. Once upon a time, you know, that's all people talked about at work was Bible studies and stuff. You know, truth be told, because the New Age generation may not know nothing about that. But yeah, once upon a time, that was the thing to talk about in the break rooms, was ministry and praying for each other and all that. But anyways, I'm already as tired as it is, so I'm not going to waste too much more breath. More ruach. But Yahuwah's been putting in my heart that that door's shutting, you know, like people aren't going to really receive it no more. He demonstrated it pretty much how he moved me over here where I'm at now. It's kind of isolated from the nightlife, the Gasland Strip. That's where I used to live when I lived out here. I lived smack down in the heart of downtown in the nightlife. I was out there blowing my shofar, my ram's horn, preaching to repent, trying to do love. Every kind of angle I could figure out to do it, I did. And I did that for a few years. And so now Yahuwah's giving me rest, and he's like, yeah, you know, do what you can, but just look where I put you. I'm relaxing you, I'm resting you, because the time is near, and the door is shutting. Sheep and goats are being separated. We say that all the time. We've been saying that for a few years, but it's a process, because a sheep can still turn into a goat, and a goat can, in the last minute, become a sheep. Because as the sheep's following this path, being circumcised and being refined, there might be something where they hit that one thing they cannot overcome. And that's just going to be that one thing that's going to turn them all the way back. It's going to hook them all the way back into the world and say, I can't give that up. And they're just going to decide to choose the world. So at the last minute, first will be the last, and the last will be first. You see that sheep become the goat. And then the goat, we could do whatever, having a good time, and last minute say, man, this ain't what I want. This ain't making me happy, and decided to just let it all go, all in his heart, all of it, and come to YAHUSHA and just be quickened, in the last few years kind of thing. And so we're going through that now, where we're going to be tested in every part of our mental, our emotional, our psychological, our patience, our long-suffering, our compassion, our forgiveness. People are going to betray us. People have to betray us so that we can demonstrate forgiveness. Like YAHUSHA had to forgive, everybody's assigned a Judas. YAHUSHA had a Judas, someone who betrayed him. Peter, who denied him 3 times. We're all gonna go through these things, and we have to be like YAHUSHA, be perfect, be willing to forgive everybody, long suffering, be patient with everybody, and hear what everybody has to say. Let people be right even though they're wrong, and get their way, and serve them even though they're unjustifiably right or whatever. And he's been showing me a lot of things, and so we're going to get tested in every way. That's happening now. So you cannot fail your tests. You cannot, at this season, these last seasons, let pride get into you. You cannot try to get your way. You cannot try to win your debate. I've been being tested a lot, and I finally gave up to the point where, I'm just going to be quiet, be humble, and I got nothing in me more to try to debate or try to prove my point. To give the word I want to give, right? Some of it's self-willed, and because we want them to know the truth, and we think if we just say that magical verse, right, just that'll be enough to save them, and we push through it when we're debating. They don't want to hear it, and well, let me just show you one more thing, and they're like, all right, fine. They're not ready. You don't want to hear it, and you're just forcing it on them, and you show them this one thing, and it's not received, and that's the test, man. Knowledge is not going to bring people to its love, its compassion, its long-suffering, building that rapport. It's being humble, being silent, putting the interests of others before yours, letting them be right. We're here to serve. If we can't serve people that are made in the image of YAHUSHA, how are we going to serve YAHUSHA, who we haven't even seen yet? We don't even know what he's going to be like. He may be like the bad boss, saying authoritative. You never know. He might manifest in different ways, because we all are made in his image. So ain't no telling what kind of blend of mixture of our personality traits he's going to manifest to us, or he can kind of mix that all up at any time. We have to be willing to go with any of that, however he decides to be one day. Not to say he changes, because he says, I change not. But he has different personality characteristical traits about him. That's why we had to see him through all the Nabim, all the prophets, and all the patriarchs. They're all a manifestation of YAHUSHA. They're all the different part of YAHUSHA, right? Like Musha was a humility and fear of Yahuwah. Then you got King David, who was the righteousness and the love of Yahuwah. And then you got King Shalomo, who was the wisdom of Yahuwah. And then you have Elijah, who was the compassion of Yahuwah. So everybody typified or manifested a different characteristic about YAHUSHA, of Yahuwah in the flesh. YAHUSHA was all of that put together. You see what I'm saying? But all these people that came were a different piece of the puzzle. They were slowly bringing us, what YAHUSHA is like. And we all have that too. And so if we can't humble ourselves, to an authoritative figure, to authority, YAHUSHA is the ultimate authority, and he's going to be the authorities of the authorities. That's what King of Kings means. And we can't humble ourselves to, something that someone tells us at a job, or something that we don't think was the right car, or whatever it may be, just to test us. Maybe it wasn't on purpose, just to test your pride. It ain't about trying to defend the right call or whatever, what the right thing was. It's just about taking orders. Do what your boss said. Because how do we know that's not going to be an issue that arises in the Shamayim, in the eternal kingdom? How do we know that, Yahusha is like not gonna ask us to do something, and it'll kind of like prophetically be like something that we would experience in this earth, where we feel like that don't sound right though, because that's exactly what Satan did. Yahusha were like, hey, this is how we do things. This is it. This is that. And Hasatan's like, you know what? I don't want to do that. Like I don't think that's right. I want to do my own thing. I don't think you got all this together. I think I know better. You know what I'm saying? And so we try to, usurp the boss's authority or his decision and kind of like, override it, right? So I've been learning in this walk, it's about extreme humility, humbling before even the wrong calls, or even if you get into debate with somebody, letting them spew and be right, and you just listen, just be humble and like look at them with love and compassion. Forget about what you wanted to say, because if he's arguing, your word is not worth more him losing his peace. Because if he lost his peace over a discussion, that's like you lost his soul. You know what I mean? You aided in that. You want to like fear Yah enough to like keep the man's peace intact before you preach the word, because he already lost the peace. So regardless whether you preach the word or not, don't matter. You get your point across and share that word, it don't matter. He already lost his peace. Hearing that word is not going to help. So love the man, long suffer, build him back up, just be a good friend, don't worry about the word. And he might say, whew, got it all out of my system. So what was it that you wanted to show me? Praise Yah. And I've had that happening. I've been with Malakim and in the flesh, and they sort of test me, and then they reward me that way. Like you give a dog a treat. Like I'm finally starting to get it, man. I'm being trained like a dog. You know what I'm saying? And I realized I had like a lot of little impatient pride issues and stuff. So anyways, yeah, praise Yah. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, we're gonna have to delete that. Yeah. So that's basically the same thing that I was doing. Speaking of that, someone just came on here and like bombarded their own message on my video, and being disrespectful. I don't think I've ever actually done that. I've done that a long time, but there requires growth there, because we have to be respectful. Basically, I'm learning to just like let go, and Yahuwah will bring whoever needs to come to you. You just be the light, just be still, and that's really most important. Like normally I have the Hallelujah scriptures like this, and normally I'm trying to flip to show everybody about, don't mention the names of other mighty ones in Exodus 23:13, and then flip to Isaiah 65:11, and the name of a mighty one is called God, a false mighty one. And that's where we got that word God from, because it never was in the original Hebrew. It was always Elohim. And so, that was my bread and butter. And I'll be like, oh yeah, have you seen this? Look, check it out. And they're already like, whoa, wait a minute. What's your name? And I went to a service recently, and I just like had no type of motivation to do that. It came to my mind. It came to my mind for like a split second in the morning, but I chose not to like meditate on it, like before I even left. And I was like, I'm just gonna go whatever. I wasn't even gonna read my Bible, and but I brought it, and all of a sudden, completely forgot about it. Didn't think about my motivations to do that. And how ironic! Someone actually said, "Hey, can I see your Bible?" Never had that happen. Because normally I'm too busy pushing on everybody. And finally someone's like, can I see your Bible? I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like, "Ooh, that looks cool. It's got Hebrew. Can I take a picture of it?" And I was like, yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, take a picture of it." And so they took a picture of it, and then they asked, if we can hang out this Tuesday today, and we went out for some tacos, and I was being tested to see if I can maintain composure, and we didn't like get into no debate or nothing, just sort of these little things, and I was just like chilling, like cool, and sure enough, he's like, "Oh, by the way, you wanted to teach something, right? Like you wanted to," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, And so he allowed me to teach all the way through what I wanted to show him, because I first let him get everything out, and just get everything out of his system. So praise Him. And so I say this to say that we're going to be tested in every way: patience, pride, putting the interests of others before ourselves, exalt others higher than ourselves, and humble ourselves. Let other people win the argument or whatever, have their way, and just chill. And then Yahuwah will exalt you in the best way, and let you really hand over the rest to you. Basically, reward you with more than what you thought you were gonna be able to do. So praise Yah. And that being said, it led into, as I was being trained on all this, how not to be a whore. The main message, because I say that because as I was like learning these characteristics, these behaviors, I was also being trained on how not to like yeah, we share with the world, but we're not to be of it. And then I was noticing that engaging in the world too much, things would always happen that kind of be a little bit destructive. And so I understood it was who was speaking to me. So I tried a new tactic. I tried to respond back, like see what you was really trying to say. And so what I started to do was just stop talking to people, and only the people in my department. Like he was trying to show me prophetically, like stick to your clique, just kind of, even if your authority is not vibing with you in the best way. And that's a lesson too, because he's trying to humble us, because when the new kingdom, the millennial reign, or maybe a gathering he's going to start doing with a lot of us here in the world and the earth, bringing us to communities, there's going to be people in charge. And the only way Yahuwah is going to allow you to go there is if you can show him that you can submit to authority. Because there's going to be people in authority, you may not like their idea, what they have to say, and you might be the kind of guy that you like to be creative and make up your, you want to do things your own kind of way on someone else's property, and that may not fly, and you're being a little too inventive on that, and that might get you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And Yahuwah is trying to let you see where you stand with authority, and also himself see it, and see where you're having issues, and see if you can overcome them, because he ain't going to make it easy. You're not just going to have this cool boss and be like, hey, and he's going to be cool dudes, and he's like, yeah, see, I can take authority. Anybody can take authority when it's like a boss that's in line with what we want to do, or he's just cool or whatever. But can you take authority from a boss that, maybe he's rough around the edges, or you disagree with him on a lot of things, or you just don't know, y'all have misunderstandings? I don't know. But that's going to happen in real Chai, and you gotta be willing to submit to that authority. And I said it too, even in a gang, you know what I'm saying, there's authority. People want to talk about, like, their opposed authority, but authorities are a big thing. Like, even men have to humble themselves before other men. Even in a gang, there's always leaders, and yeah, they're humble. They respect that authority, and we've lost that, because we think that the Ruach alone is our authority, and we're all fighting each other. And so I'm willing to submit because I'm being humble to submit right now. So that tells me I'm definitely going to be having to submit. And I'm submitting now to show that I'm ready for it. And, yeah, so, there's a lot of people that are going to be in authority that we think that they have to look like this peace-loving JC kind of character, right? Like, very kind, very compassionate and friendly, talking like, hey, buddy, hey, pal, how are you? Don't worry, we got this. Let's go, team. Like, nah, man. Like, that'd be ideal for me, even, right? Who doesn't want a cool... to me, I think that's cool. With his friend, you ain't got to worry about it. It's positive or whatever. Somewhat. That might be a little bit... I was being like a little bit exaggerated, but some people may not like that characteristic type. So, it's preference. And, but it might be a boss that he's a man's man. He's got grit, and he just don't have that kind of, like... He ain't got time to babysit you. He ain't got time to, like, be sweet to you. He's just gonna, like, talk to you in a kind of way to kind of make you feel dumb, but he's really just trying to get you to think about what you need to be doing, what you're saying, and that's just his style. And that's not to say it's wicked. That could be a teaching method. That's still authority, and helps humble you and praise Yah. Praise Yah. Because it's like a father figure. Because a lot of us have had probably some hard fathers some fathers that were hard. And so we kind of, stayed away from that. We chose to, like, divert it, to avoid it, confrontation, and thinking that was wicked. Because it was a little rough and kind of stern and aggressive or whatever. But doesn't mean it's wicked. That's just projection. What's the fruit? I mean, yeah, granted, fruit's a part of that. But who is doing a mysterious thing, man? Those things are valid, but there's so much more that's valid. It's all just depending on whatever the Ruach wants to do. It's of course in line with Torah, but I've seen people that talk hard, have some sarcasm to them. But yeah, they're good people. They have a good heart. They mean well. As long as you're on the right track, they're right with you. They don't really try to mess. They're not really trying to be. They're not really after you. You know what I'm saying? They're looking after you, if anything. They're helping you out in a lot of ways. So that's cool. And that's showing me, like, okay, we got some authority. And that being said, it's like Good Times. Here's a good parable, Good Times. You remember the show Good Times? I forgot how the song goes. Was it moving on up, moving on up? Yeah, I think so. But anyways, you remember the show George Jefferson? Well, he was kind of like kind of hard on his wife, right? It seemed like he treated her like a doormat in a lot of ways, but he loved her, right? And he looked after her and took care of her, provided all that, and she loved him anyways. Man, that's like, you gotta be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? That's like traditional type relationships. I know it looks bad, but it's sort of like keeping you strong in a way. It's like keeping you strong. It's to keep you on your toes. It's strength. It's to keep you alert on your toes. To keep you strong, you know what I mean? And now everybody's so sensitive, we can handle that. But you see, that was a traditional relationship. That's the Jeffersons. Who else? I know it's kind of a bad version of one, but Married with Children. Love in the marriage. He kind of treated his wife like a doormat. Was always kind of like, didn't want to, be with her and stuff. But she just loved him. She just kept trying to find ways to, win his love, right? What was his wife's name again? Peggy. And she was a beautiful woman. So this dude was tripping. He was, this is a show about these dudes who take their wives for granted. Not really, but, the takeaway is that you see these traditional relationships where the head, the husbands were seemingly not treating their wives like the best, but really kept them going, kept them, like, she kept trying to please her man though, you know what I'm saying? But he provided, he loved her, he took care of her and everything. It's just the way it projected, you know. And that was a lot better than a man worshiping his wife and giving her the pants, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at too. But it taught me that just because a leader in an authority role comes off like he's a little rough around the edges, like he's not really a nice guy or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad leader. That might be what the assembly needs, or what the people need, is one. But then at the same time, you know, like, I'm over here trying to be Mr. Nice Guy, hope everybody's like, nah, we right here together though. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. Like, even though someone can seem like that, but then it's like, but we're a team. You know what I'm saying? We're on the same team. So it's like, right on. And then when you kind of start to understand that loyalty and stick with it, then it becomes more like, you know, committed. It becomes more like you don't go out to just whoever. You don't look to the right or left. So then it's like, this is where it gets like a gang mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, once you're like, let's say you're a Crip or whatever, you don't just like start befriending, you know, people from the tennis club and the golf club and the football team and, you know, the Bloods and all that. You stick to your own. But you're always going to kind of keep an eye open for new recruits. But yeah, you just stick with your own people and that's it. And that's sort of what he was revealing to me. Like, he was wanting me to gain that mentality. Because a whore, spiritual whore, is somebody who, they claim to be with the team, but then in the name of trying to recruit others, they're jumping into different teams and you know, connecting too much with the enemy, with like the adversary. And that's like whoring. It's like leaving your clique to go do things unseen behind closed doors, whoring with someone of another team. You know what I'm saying? Just by engaging, just by interacting, just by, you know, because he was getting ready to, you know, the reason why he's being so strict is because he's getting ready to manifest more, and he's separating us, and we got to be ready to have that kind of seriousness about our own, you know, people, Yasharao, his kingdom. And finally, that's like the recalibrating and the reprogramming of like closing the doors on the world. You know, like, we share the word of love, but then trying to get in the ark and shut the doors, and at that point the mind has to change. It's a switch, but it's also a process. That switch is a process. And so now he's got me learning how to, like, forget him, don't even talk to him, don't even nobody, just keep to yourself. It's almost time to go, you know, because I done kissed butt all my life, and for what? In the name of love, I love people, try to win them over, but now he's like, that's the next biggest challenge. Can you stop loving? Like, love them, love your enemy, but like, stop showing that love. Like, right now, if you really love them, you need to like let them go. And he's been manifesting. They'll come to me. They'll come to you. As long as you're just trying to love and be all, they're like, dude, get off me, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to say in a more profound way, like, to paint the picture prophetically. It's like, I'm just like, hey, man, how you doing? Thinking, you know, my love's gonna win them, but it really looks like I'm thirsty, as they say. I'm just trying to be loving and caring. But he's like, you really love him? Leave him alone. Be quiet. And look, I went to the service, didn't say nothing. Dude, that's about my Bible. I didn't have to like show him anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's like an example. Like, you will show me, if you just keep doing that, I'll bring them to you and give you that same result that you want, for them to take interest, because it's me doing it. I open their eyes and open their mind and their heart to seek me, and things that I put on you, with you, for you to give them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and read this Jeremiah chapter 2, Yirmiyah chapter 2. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Go, and you shall cry in the hearing of Yerushalayim, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridehood, when you went after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Yasharah was Kadash to Yahuwah, the first fruits of his increase. All who ate of it became guilty, evil came upon them, declares Yahuwah. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O house of Yaakov, and all the clans of the house of Yasharah. Thus said Yahuwah, What unrighteousness has your fathers found in me, that they have gone far from me, and went after worthlessness, and became worthless? And did not they say, Where is Yahuwah, who brought us up out of the land of Natsarym, who led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and pits, through a land of drought and the shadow of death, a land that no one passed through, and where no one dwelt? Then I brought you into a garden land, to eat its fruit and its goodness. But when you entered, you defiled my land, and made my inheritance an abomination. The Kohanim did not say, Where is Yahuwah? The Kohanim did not say, Where is Yahuwah? And those who handled the Torah did not know me. And the shepherds transgressed against me, and the Nabim prophesied by Baal, and walked after no value. Therefore, I still contend with you, declares Yahuwah, and with your children's children I contend. For pass beyond the isles of Kittim and see, and send to Kedar, and observe well, and see if there has been any like this. Has a nation changed its mighty ones, which are not mighty ones? But my people have changed my esteem for that which does not profit. Be amazed, O Shamayim, at this, and be frightened, be utterly dried up, declares Yahuwah. For my people have done two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, to hew out for themselves cisterns, cracked cisterns, which do not hold water. Is Yasharah a servant? Was he born in the house? Why is he given to plunder? The young lions roared at him. They growled and made his land waste. His cities have been burned without inhabitant. Even the Banim of Noph and of the Taphines have shaven the crown of your head. Have you not done this to yourself by forsaking Yahuwah, your Elohim, when he led you in the way? Shaving the crown of the head is a reference to enslaving them. When you enslave people, you shave their heads. And now, why take the way to Natsarym, to drink the waters of Shihor? Or why take the way to Ashur, to drink the waters of the river? Your own evils instruct you. Your own evil instructs you, and your backslidings reprove you. Know therefore, and see that it is evil and bitter, that you have forsaken Yahuwah, your Elohim, and that my reverence is not in you, declares the Adon Yahuwah of hosts. For of old you have broken your yoke and tore off your bonds. This is where we're going to get to the Whoredom. For of old you have broken your yoke and tore off your bonds, and you said, I am not serving, when on every high hill and under every green tree you lay down a whore. Yet I have planted you a choice vine, all of it a true seed. How then have you turned before me into the degenerate plant of a strange vine? Although you wash yourself with lye and use much soap, yet your wickedness is ingrained before me, declares the Adon Yahuwah. How do you say, I am not defiled? I have not gone after the Baals. See your ways, see your way in the valley. Know what you have done and done. A swift dromedary breaking loose in her ways. A wild donkey used to the wilderness, sniffing the wind in the desire of her being. In her time of mating, she turns her way. All those who seek her need not worry themselves. In her month they find her. Keep your foot from being bare, and your throat from thirst. Don't be thirsty. But you said, it is useless, because I love strangers, and after them I go. That's where it talks about loving strangers and going to them. That's Yasharal right there for you. Trying to be friends with the world, basically. It said, but you said, it is useless, because I love strangers, and after them I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found out, so is the house of Yasharal ashamed. They and their sovereigns and their heads, and their Kohanim and their Nabim, saying to a tree, you are my father, and to a stone, you gave me birth. You gave birth to me. For they have turned their back to me, and not their face, but in the time of their calamity they say, arise and save us. But where are your mighty ones that you have made for yourselves? Let them arise if they save you in the time of your calamity, because your mighty ones have become as many as your cities. O Yehuda, why do you complain to me? You all have transgressed against me, declares Yahuwah. In vain have I smitten your children. They receive no instruction. Your sword has devoured your Nabim like a destroying lion. O generation, see the word of Yahuwah. Have I been a wilderness to Yasharal, or a land of darkness? Why do my people say, we have broken loose, we come to you no more? Would a maiden forget her ornament? That sounds like Christianity trying to say that, they're broken free from the law, like they're free from the law, and because they really don't want to serve Yahuwah no more. This is like almost prophetic to that. You know what I'm saying? Saying, why do my people say we have broken loose, like they broke free, right, from the law, like they're free from the law? My people, why do my people say we have broken loose, we come to you no more? Basically, when you say you're free from the law, you're saying you come to him no more. Because YAHUSHA is the fulfillment of the law. He's the law, meaning he's the last cherry on top of the law. He's that last, he fills it, he completes the law. By that meaning, like, you have a ice cream sundae and all this other stuff going on, and it's like you're missing your cherry. It's not fulfilled. It's still part of the whole sundae, you know what I'm saying, the law, but you're just missing the cherry on top. YAHUSHA is the cherry on top. He completes the rest of the sundae. Like, I need my cherry for this to be a complete ice cream sundae, to be fulfilled. So it's like, boom, there's your cherry. And what is that cherry? YAHUSHA. And what does that mean? That we put our trust in him and we do the rest. Like, we already have the rest, but now we have the one manifest in whom to put our trust in. Because Dawid in the Psalms always said, Yahuwah, I've guarded your laws and your right rulings, and I have put my trust in you. Don't let me perish. So he starts to talk about he keeps the Torah, but then he always mentions, and I have put my trust in you, so favor me. So that they're trying to be prophetic. It's prophetic to say that putting our trust in him is part of the Torah too. And it's fulfilled when YAHUSHA came. Now we have somewhere tangible, someone we can see in the image of Yahuwah to put our trust in. That's what that's talking about. So, why do you go out? Okay, let me go back. It says, why do my people say we have broken loose? We come to you no more. Breaking free from it. We don't go to you no more. No, we coming to you, Yahweh. We keeping these commandments and with the cherry on top. YAHUSHA. Would a maiden forget her ornaments, or a bride her headband? Yet my people have forgotten me, days without number. So he's saying that the commandments is the clothing, and Yahuwah is the headband. Yahusha. My people have forgotten me, days without number. Why do you embellish your way to seek love? Therefore you have even taught the evil woman your ways. Even on your skirts is found the blood of the lives of the Chaim, of the poor innocents. You did not find them breaking in, but in spite of all these, you say, because I am innocent, certainly his displeasure shall turn from me. See, I shall bring judgment on you, because you say, I have not sinned. Ooh, you're going to get judged because you say you have not sinned. Why do you go about so much to change your way? It's like, why are you going so much to put on makeup and become a whore? Even of Masraim you are to be ashamed, as you were ashamed of Ashur. Be led captive into captivity to Masraim like you were in Assyria. Even from this one you shall go forth with your hands on your head, for Yahuwah has rejected those you trust, and you shall not prosper by them. Hallelujah, YAHUSHA. And the last thing I want to read real quick is going to be in Ezekiel 16. Ezekiel 16 and Ezekiel 23. I'm just going to try to read straight through. Ezekiel 16. Again the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, make known to Yerushalayim her abominations, and say, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah to Yerushalayim, your origin and your birth are from the land of Canaan. Your father was an Amorite and your mother a Hittite. So here Yahuwah is being poetic and saying that, to Ezekiel, tell Yasharal that you're like a Gentile, you're like a foreigner, like you're the land. Your birth is from the land of Canaan. You might as well have been born in Canaan, and your father might as well have been an Amorite and your mother a Hittite. As for your birth, on the day you were born, your navel cord was not cut. In other words, things being done unclean, like not the proper way, like disgusting thing. Nor were you washed in water for cleansing, and you were not rubbed with salt at all, nor wrapped in cloth at all. No eye felt sorry for you, to do any of these for you, to have compassion on you. This is talking about like Yasharal, when it was just a nation in the wilderness, like just not having their own land. But you were thrown out into the open field, to the loathing of your Chai on the day you were born. Then I passed by you and saw you trampled down in your own blood, and I said to you, in your blood, live. And I said to you, in your blood, live. So it repeats twice. So it's talking about is like he's just being prophetic, right? Poetic, saying that he saw Yashua before they were a nation. They were as helpless and defenseless as a newborn baby. I have let you grow like a plant in the field, and you are grown and are great, and you come in the finest ornaments. Breasts were formed, your hair grew, and you were naked and bare. In other words, you became a great mighty people, multiplied to, become like Sion, become like a woman, like the Mother Earth nation, the mother nation. Again I passed by you and looked upon you and saw that your time was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over you and covered your nakedness, and I swore an oath to you and entered into a covenant with you, and you became mine. So this is Yahuwah, taking Yasharal in the wilderness at Mount Sion with Moshe, the commandments to make, that was a wedding ceremony, to make Yasharal Yahuwah's bride. That's why I was sealed with the blood of the covenant of the sprinkling of the blood of bulls. What happens on the marriage bed in the first night? The hymen, I think that's what it's called, is broken. That's when, as they call the cherry of the female virgin is she bleeds in her first time, and so that's to symbolize the tearing of the covenant, of the cutting of the covenant, to enter into a covenant together to be one. And Yasharah is humbled, the bride is humbled, and is no longer her own, but she belongs to her husband. And so that's what this is talking about, saying, again I passed by you and looked upon you, and saw that your time was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over you, and covered your nakedness, and I swore an oath to you, and entered into a covenant with you, and you became mine, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And I washed you in water, and I washed off your blood, and I anointed you with oil. He anointed them with oil, made him his nation. And I dressed you in embroidered work, and gave you sandals of leather. Embroidered work is like they built a temple and all that. And gave you sandals of leather. And I wrapped you in fine linen, and covered you with silk. And I adorned you with ornaments, and I put bracelets on your wrists, and a chain on your neck. So he decked out YAHUSHA with gold and silver, and dressed them up really nice. And I put a ring on your nose, and earrings in your ears, and a crown of adorning on your head. Thus you were adorned with gold and silver, and your dress was of fine linen, purity, and silk, and embroidered clothing. You ate fine flour, and honey and oil. In other words, they're harvesting fine flour and honey and oil. And you were exceedingly pretty, and became fit for royalty. And your name went out among the nations because of your loveliness, for it was perfect. By my splendor which I had put on you, declares the Adon Yahuwah. But you trusted in your own loveliness, and whored because of your name. And poured out your whorings on everyone passing by, and who would have it. In other words, they were whoring with every nation. Every nation that came by, they were Yasharah, right? Some Yasharah, they were like looking at them, curious about them, wanting to be like them, admiring them, wanting to enter into covenants with them. That's whoring. Because in the physical sense, they're just looking at another group of people, but they're like taking interest in them. And that's what Yahuwah, if you take in the most simplest term, considers a whore. Because when he's talking about you whore with them, he's talking about just looking at another nation. If you take that down to, break it down to this a single individual, that's you taking interest in other people, not of our nation, not of Yasharah. You're looking around and taking interest in people, curious, and want to get to know them and befriend them. It's like you're whoring. You're being a whore. You're like spiritually connecting with them. You're yoking, making a spiritual covenant away with them, with a whore, or where you're being a whore because you're taking interest and going like somewhere where the Ruach is not, where Yahuwah is not abiding there in covenant with. So Yahuwah is now calling us to be covenanted and being yoked with those who are of our nation, of our people. Otherwise, we just start taking interest in random people, randoms, we become like a whore. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's saying. Let's look at it again. It says, and your name went out among the nations because of your loveliness, for it was perfect by my splendor which I had put on you, declares the Adon Yahuwah. But you trusted in your own loveliness, and whored because of your name, and poured out your whorings on everyone passing by who would have it. So I like how it says that, like it sounds like the Yahudim, where it talks about the Yahudim trusted in their own righteousness. This is what happened way before, obviously, but it's prophetic, because nothing is new. What has been is what shall be. This already happened. It's saying right here that, it's saying, and your name went out among all the nations because of your loveliness, for it was perfect by my splendor which I have put on you, declares the Adon Yahuwah. But you trusted in your own loveliness. You trusted in your own. Yahuwah gave it to you, but you trusted in your own way of it. And whored because of your name. You whored because you thought you were so great, you can just get away with whatever. And poured out your whorings on everyone passing by who would have it. And you took some of your garments and made multicolored high places for yourself, and whored on them, which should not have come about, nor shall it be. And you took your splendid adornments of my gold and my silver that I gave you, and made for yourself images of a male and whored with them. So it's like you made idols and whored with them. Like you lusted after these images of man. In other words, like deities, like making pagan idols or, false idols. You made images of a male and whored with them. But Yahuwah sexualizing it because he's like saying, that's how I see it. It's like you're being a whore. And you took embroidered garments and covered them, and you put my oil and my incense before them, and my food which I gave you, fine flour and oil and honey which I fed you, you put it before them as a sweet incense. And so it was, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And you took your banim and your daughters, whom you bore to me, and these you slaughtered as a food to them. Were your whorings a small matter? That you have slain my children and gave them up to them by causing them to pass through the fire? And in all your abominations and whorings you did not remember the days of your youth, when you were naked and bare, trampled down in your blood. Then it came to be, after all your evil, woe to you, declares the Adon Yahuwah, that you also built an arched place for yourself, and made a high place in every street for yourself. You built your high places at the head of every way, and made your loveliness to be loathed. Man, what's that talking about? You put your high places at the head of every way. Those high places were what you see that the churches have now. The steeple, that big long. Every church has a little, square part of the building, and they have that long, pointy, like obelisk tower thing. They've been doing that since these times, and those are called the high places. It was like in remembrance of Nimrod's, genitalia and all that, and it's like a sign of power to the false deities, and that's where that comes from. And they're saying that they had them built in every street. It's like a McDonald's everywhere. Yeah. And you built your high places at the head of every way, and made your loveliness to be loathed, and you parted your legs to everyone. Look at that. And you parted your legs to everyone who passed by, and increased your whorings. It's talking about Yasharah, the nation. But people and individuals, since like when you take interest and befriend, people of the world, just like you're spreading your legs to them, Like that's why people, what do they say in slang terms when you're getting all up on them? They say, man, get off my genitalia, because prophetically, that's the same thing the scripture says. Like, when you're like trying to get to know someone, taking that kind of interest and befriend someone, like, hey, what's up, man? You're trying to like get all friendly with them. It's like you're getting on their genitalia. That's what it's, man, get off my genitalia, man. Like you're all up on me, And that's the way Yahuwah was saying it prophetically. So it still exists today in the spirit, in the ruach, like that. So yeah, saying, and you whored with the banim of Masraim. You can go back. Yeah. You built your high places at the head of every way, and made your loveliness to be loathed, and you parted your legs to everyone who passed by, and increased your whorings. And you whored with the banim of Matzraim, your neighbors, great of flesh, and you increased your whorings to provoke me. Wow, you increased your horns to provoke me, just to provoke you. And see, I have stretched out my hand against you, and withdrew your portion, and gave you up to the desire of those who hate you. Wow, the daughters of the Pelishtites, who are ashamed of your wicked way. And you whored with the banim of Ashur, without being satisfied. And you whored with them, and still were not satisfied. And you increased your whorings as far as the land of traders, Kasdim, and even then you were not satisfied. They just kept making pacts with other nations, taking interest in them, and that's being a whore. Working, doing business with them or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's being a whore. How weak is your heart, declares the Adon Yahuwah, seeing you do all this, the deeds of a shameless whore. You built your arch place at the head of every way, and built your high place in every street. Yet you were unlike a whore. You scorned her. You scorned hire, the wife who commits adultery, who takes strangers instead of her husband. To all whores they give gifts, but you gave gifts to all your lovers, and bribed them to come to you from all around in your whorings. Man, you're such a whore, you didn't even let them pay for it. You know what I'm saying? They usually give gifts to the whore, but the whore, you being a whore, gave gifts to your lovers, the other nations, and we see that, prophesied or demonstrated. We see that manifested when, I forgot the name of which king it was, but he invites the kings of Babylon and I think another king or something, some other people, to come and look at their temple and their treasuries and see all that they got. And then one of the Nabs come to him, and they're like, man, did you just let the kings and all that of Babylon, all them come and check out the place? It's like, yeah. He's like, did they see the treasury? Yeah. Did they see this and that? Yeah. What else did they see? And then he's like, there's not one thing I withheld from them. I let them see it all. I let them have it all. In other words, man, you were being a whore. You know what I'm saying? You trying to be friends with these other nations. You were being a whore. That's what it means to be a whore. That's the Ruach told me. That's what's in here. And that's the truth. And it says, you built your arch place at the head of every way, and built your high place in every street. Yet you were unlike a whore. You scorned hire, the wife who commits adultery, who takes strangers instead of her husband. To all whores they give gifts, but you gave gifts to all your lovers, and bribed them to come to you. Yeah, man, come on, check out Yahusha. Come and look in Jerusalem and check out our treasury. Spreading your legs in the spirit. And bribe them to come to you from all around in your whorings. And it's we gotta be composed and stay to ourselves, man. Just a nation. We're all one. We just chill and compose. We don't need to whore around. Try to befriend and invite and do all that. You know what I'm saying? That's we see a lot of that in Christianity. Because that's a whole, kind of like a whorehouse thing going on in a sense. In the spirit. It's more like not a whorehouse, is wrong. Not a whorehouse. And in a lot of sense, depending on the type of sect of it, it can be what do you call that? Oh, an orgy. And Christianity can be like an orgy, man. It's yeah, everybody's welcome. Bring in whoever. We're all gonna whore together. Everybody's welcome. And it's not Kadash. It's not separated to Yahuwah. Feel me? So to all whores they give gifts, but you gave gifts to all your lovers, and bribed them to come to you from all around in your whorings. Thus you are different from other women in your whorings, because no one whores after you, and in you giving a hire, while a hire was not given to you. Thus you are different. And Yahuwah is being cold. That is Yahuwah being cold-blooded. Talk about, drop mic. That's like a freestyle rap. Yahuwah you know what I'm saying? Done put it down. Therefore, oh whore, look what this Yahuwah does say. Yahuwah. People would think, Yahuwah is just a gentle, Yes, this is Yahusha because it's the word of Yahuwah. So it had to be manifested. Yahusha had to give this word. Yahusha had to speak this to Ezekiel. You know what I'm saying? And he said, therefore, O whore, hear the word of Yahuwah. Who's the word? Yahusha. This is Yahusha. Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, because your copper was poured out, and was poured out, and your nakedness uncovered in your whorings with your lovers and with the idols of your abominations, and because of the blood of your children which you gave to them. Therefore, see, I am gathering all your lovers with whom you took pleasure, all those you loved, with all those you hated, and I shall gather them from all around against you, and shall uncover your nakedness to them, and they shall see all your nakedness. In other words, you want to be with them? Fine, you can go with them. I'm going to bring them around and come pick you up. I'm going to go in and call them right now. They can come pick you up and take care of you. Take you to their house, right? They came and the nations plundered and took them into captivity and didn't treat them so good. And I shall judge you with judgments of adulteresses and shedders of blood. And I shall bring on you the blood of wrath and jealousy. And I shall give you into their hand, and they shall throw your archplates down, and they shall break down your high places, and they shall strip you of your garments, and they shall take your splendid adornments, and leave you naked and bare. All this stuff is about being treated like a whore, naked and bare, being shamed. And they shall bring up an assembly against you, and they shall stone you with stones, and thrust you through with their swords, and burn your houses with fire, and execute judgments on you before the eyes of many women. And I shall make you stop whoring, and no longer give hire. All this is a spanking, just to make you stop whoring and stop selling yourself to whore. And they shall bring up an assembly against you, and they shall stone you with stones, and thrust you through with their swords, and burn your houses with fire, and execute judgments on you before the eyes of many women. And I shall make you stop whoring, and you no longer give hire. That's a bad spanking. So I shall bring my wrath to rest upon you, and my jealousy shall turn away from you, and I shall be calm, and no longer be wroth. Because you did not remember the days of your youth, but troubled me with all this. So see, I shall also bring your ways on your own head, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And shall I not do this, though, for all your abominations? See, all who use proverbs shall use this proverb against you, like mother, like daughter. You are your mother's daughter, who despised her husband and her children, and you are the sister of your sisters, who despised her husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, and your father an Amorite, and your elder sister is Samaria, Shamarun, and she and her daughters, who is dwelling to the north of you, and your younger sister, who is dwelling to the south of you, is Saddam and her daughters. And have you not walked in their ways and did according to their abominations? In other words, aren't you rightly, am I not rightly calling you these, false nations, these, nations that are full of wickedness because you're acting like them? And have you not walked in their ways and did according to their abominations? But in all your ways you soon became more corrupt than they. Wow, they became more corrupt than Saddam. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Sodom and Gomorrah. As I live, declares the Adon Yahuwah, neither your sister Saddam nor her daughters have done as you and your daughters have done. See, this was the wickedness of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride. Hey, there's the gay pride right there. She and her daughters had pride, sufficiency of bread, and unconcerned ease. And she did not help the poor and needy, and they were haughty, and did abominations before me, and I took them away when I saw it. And Shamarun did not commit half of your sins, but you have increased your abominations more than they, and by all the abominations which you have done, you made your sister seem righteous. Man, you're so wicked, you made your sister seem righteous, and they're wicked too. They weren't half as wicked as you were, so you made them seem righteous. You also who pleaded for your sisters bear your own shame, because the sins which you committed were more abominable than theirs. They are more righteous than you. So be ashamed too, and bear your own shame, because you have made your sisters seem righteous. And I shall turn back their captivity, the captivity of Saddam and her daughters, and the captivity of Shamarum and her daughters, and the captivity of your captives with them, so that you bear your shame, and shall blush for all that you did when you comforted them. And your sisters, Saddam and her daughters, return to their former state, and Shamarum and her daughters return to their former state, and you and your daughters return to your former state. Was not your sister, in other words, I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to scatter you and bring you back. I'm going to cause you to get afflicted and come back. Was not your sister Saddam a byword in your mouth in the days of your pride, before your evil was exposed, as the time of the reproach of the daughters of Aram and all who were around her, and of the daughters of the Pelishtites who are despising you everywhere? You shall bear your wickedness and your abominations, declares Yahuwah. For thus said the Adon Yahuwah, I shall deal with you as you have done, in that you have despised the oath by breaking the covenant. But I shall remember my covenant with you in the days of your youth, and I shall establish an everlasting covenant with you, and you shall remember your ways, and be ashamed when you receive your older and your younger sisters, and I shall give them to you for daughters, though not by your own covenant. And I myself shall establish my covenant with you, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah, so that you remember, and you shall be ashamed, and never open your mouth any more because of your shame, when I pardon you for all you have done. Look, talking about, and you shall be ashamed and never open your mouth anymore because of your shame. Never open your mouth anymore because of your shame. Time to be quiet, y'all. When I pardon you for all you have done, declares the Adon Yahuwah. Why is saying that last sentence? Why is talking about, and you shall be ashamed and never open your mouth anymore because of your shame? In other words, I'm going to shut you up from flirting with all these other nations, all these other people, all these other, the people, the world, the worldliness, the ones not in covenant with Yahuwah Yahusha. It's time to, close their mouth and not engage in like a way that's like, to be a friend of Yah, or to be a friend of the world is to be enmity with Yah. To be a friend of the world means to engage and do the things they do, talk about the things they talk about. So yeah, we got to talk about things we need to talk about, from a work perspective or whatever it might be. But as far as that goes, that's it. It's just business, not personal. So, and you shall be ashamed and never open your mouth. And never open your mouth anymore because of your shame, when I pardon you for all you have done, declares the Adon Yahuwah. Humbling. So I want to read this last one, and Ruach put it on my heart, so I just gotta get it out and try to go sleep. Alright. It's gonna be Yahasakal, Ezekiel chapter 23. This is picking up a few chapters later on that same thought. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Bond of man, there were 2 women. This is the word of Yahuwah saying this. Bond of man, there were 2 women, daughters of one mother, and they whored in Natsarym. They whored in their youth. Their breasts were handled, and their maiden nipples were squeezed, and their names were Ohula the elder, and Oholiba her sister, and they were mine. So this is Yahuwah making a parable like, I had these 2 wives that were sisters, they were mine, and they bore banim and daughters, and their names Shamarum is Ohula, and Yerushalayim is Oholiba. And now these names mean something. I sorry I don't have that right now, but you got to go into it, because once you look up what these names mean, it's like prophetic. It's like, and her name was, behind closed curtains. I don't know what it means actually, but it's like something that's like maybe not good, you know. And Ahola Horde, okay, and their names were Shamarun and is Ohola, and Yerushalayim is Oholiba. So he's like being prophetic, giving them different names. And Ohula whored while she was mine, and she lusted for her lovers, the neighboring Assyrians, dressed in purple, officers and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding on horses. So it's describing literal people. It's like this. It's like lusting after this nation. Like they took interest in another nation. Like, oh, they look cool. Like I like their outfits. But in Yahuwah's eyes, it's like they're lusting, men lusting after the men, but he's describing them like women. You might as well be women, lusting after men. You know what I'm saying? You might as well be a whore lusting after them. So he says, and she lusted for her lovers, the neighboring Assyrians, dressed in purple, officers and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding on horses. So she gave her whorings on them, all of them, choice banim of Assyria, and with all for whom she lusted, with all their idols she defiled herself, and she did not forsake her whorings from Natsarym, for in her youth they had lain with her, and they squeezed her maiden nipples, and poured out their whorings on her. It's talking about getting to know, making contracts, covenants with other nations, getting to know them intimately, making peace agreements, and working together, doing business together, and all that. So she gave her whorings on them, all of them choice banim of Ashur, and with all for whom she lusted, with all their idols she defiled herself. And she did not forsake her whorings from Natsarym, for in her youth they had lain with her, and squeezed her maiden nipples, and poured out their whorings on her. Therefore I have given her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians, for whom she lusted. Yahuwah handed them over to the Assyrians for lusting after them, letting them squeeze her maiden nipples, being like letting them take advantage of her, and take advantage of them, doing what they want with them. They uncovered her nakedness. They took away her banim and daughters, and slew her with the sword, and she became a byword among women, and they executed judgments on her. And her sister Oholiba saw this, yet she became more corrupt in her lust than she, and in her whorings more corrupt than her sister's whorings. She lusted for the banim of Ashur, officers and rulers, the ones near, perfectly dressed, horsemen riding on horses, all of them desirable young men. And I saw that she was defiled. They both took the same way. But she increased her whorings, and she looked at men carved on the wall, images of Kasdites portrayed in red, girded with belts around their loins, flowing turbans on their heads, all of them looking like officers, like the Babylonians of Kasdim, the land of their birth. As soon as her eyes saw them, she lusted for them, and sent messengers to them in Kasdim. As soon as the nation of Yasharel saw the Assyrians, they took interest in them and said, "Hey man, send them a letter and tell them to come over so we can party and hang out. We want to hang out with them and get to know them and be like them." As lusting and being a whore, taking interest like that. Because these were men, these were nations, describing them like a woman. Might as well have been a whore in Yahuwah's eyes. And the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whorings, and she was defiled by them, and her being turned from them in disgust. In other words, Babylonians came and tore it up. They came and attacked the temple and raped and pillaged and took some things, and they were like, I can't believe they did that to me, like did that to us. But Yahuwah sees like might as well have been a whore, like, oh my gosh, you know. And she was defiled by them, and her being turned from them in disgust. And she uncovered her whorings and uncovered her nakedness. Then I turned my being from her in disgust, as my being had turned from her sister in disgust. And she increased her whorings, remembering the days of her youth, when she whored in the land of Natsarym. And she lusted after her lovers, whose flesh is like the flesh of donkeys, and whose emission is like the emission of horses. Wow, it's getting detailed there. Now that might just be poetic, saying, man, they were such a whore, they were like wanting all that. It might as well have been. Thus you longed for the wickedness. See, it's being prophetic, the parable, like all that sexual talk is really measuring the magnitude of their wickedness. And that's talking about idolatry and just, doing the things they were doing. Thus you longed for the wickedness of your youth, when the Matzrites squeezed your nipples, because of the breasts of your youth. Therefore, Ohuliba, thus said the Adon Yahuwah, see, I am stirring up your lovers against you, from whom your being turned in disgust, and shall bring them against you from every side, the Babylonians and all the Chazdites, Pakud and Shawa, Shua and Kua, all the Banim of Ashur with them, all of them desirable young men, governors and rulers, officers and men of name, all of them riding on horses. And they shall come against you with battle axe, chariots, and wheels, and with an assembly of peoples. They shall put against you armor, and shield, and helmet all around. And I shall commit the judgment to them, and they shall judge you according to their rulings. And I shall turn my jealousy against you, and they shall deal heatedly with you. They shall cut off your nose and your ears, while the rest of you fall by the sword. Your banim and your daughters they shall take away, while the rest of you shall be consumed by fire. And they shall strip you of your garments, and shall take your pretty jewels. And I shall put an end to your wickedness, and to your whorings from the land of Natsarym, so that you do not lift your eyes to them, don't lift your eyes to them, neither remember Natsarym any more. For thus said the Adon Yahuwah, see, I am giving you into the hand of those whom you hate, into the hand of those from whom your being turned in disgust, and they shall deal with you in hatred, and they shall take away all you have worked for, and they shall leave you naked and bare, and the nakedness of your whorings shall be uncovered, and the wickedness of your whorings. I do this for you because of your whoring after the Gentiles, because you have been defiled by their idols. You have walked in their ways, they have walked in the way of your sister, and I shall give her cup into your hand. Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, drink of your sister's cup, the deep and wide one, you being laughed at and mocked at, for it holds much. You know what? I'm going to stop right there because I'm falling asleep, and I got the main part, and there's more. Let me try to skip ahead. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to continue. For I have spoken, declares the Adon Yahuwah. Therefore, thus said the Adon Yahuwah, because you have forgotten me and cast me behind your back, therefore you shall bear your wickedness and your whorings. And Yahuwah said to me, Son of man, judge of Ohula and Oholiba, and declare to them their abominations, for they have committed adultery, and blood is on their hands, and they have committed adultery with their idols, and even offered their banim, whom they bore to me, passing them through the fire to devour. They also did this to me. They have defiled my mikdash on the same day and they have profaned my Shabbatut. For when they had slain their children for their idols, on the same day they came into my mikdash to profane it. And see, this is what they did in the midst of my house. And they even sent for men to come from afar, to whom a malak was sent. And see, they came, for whom you washed yourself, painted your eyes, and adorned yourself with ornaments. And you sat on a splendid couch with a table prepared before it, on which you had put my incense and my oil. And the sound of a crowd at ease was with her, and drunkards were brought from the wilderness, with men of the commonest sort. And they put bracelets on their wrists, and pretty crowns on their heads. Then I said concerning the one worn out in adulteries, now let them commit her whorings, even hers. And they went into her, as men go into women who is a whore. Thus they went into Ohala and Oholiba, the wicked women. But let righteous men judge them with the judgment of adulteresses. Again, but let righteous men judge them with the judgment of adulteresses, and the judgment of women who shed blood. For they are adulteresses, and blood is on their hands. For thus said the Adon Yahuwah, bring up an assembly against them, give them up to maltreatment and plunder. And the assembly shall stone them with stones, and cut them with their swords. They shall slay their banim and their daughters, and burn their houses with fire. And I shall put an end to wickedness in the land, and all the women shall be instructed not to commit wickedness as you have done. And they shall put your wickedness on you, and you shall bear the sins of your idols. And you shall know that I am the Adon Yahuwah. Word of Yahuwah. Pray that message, the word, gave you some food for thought. Not to be a whore. We see what that's like. Don't take so much interest in the world and things they're doing, and be trying to get off into people's worlds and bubbly and friendly, and trying to always, introduce yourself and kind of just always get in there all the time. Keep to yourself. YAHUSHA got you. You don't need to do all that. Praise Yah. They'll come to you if they want to hear a word, if they're being drawn to the light. So, with that I bid you farewell. Abi who will favor you and increase you. Abi who will guard you and protect you. Make his face shine upon you and strengthen you. He will be compassionate towards you and fill you with shalom and all the fruit of the Ruach to be a light unto the nations. We pray and allow and petition this by the power and authority of YAHUSHA Mashiach, our Adon, our Elohim, our King of Kings, and our Prince of Peace, forever and ever. Amen and amen and amen. Hallelujah, YAHUSHA. Shalom, shalom, Yasharah. Shalom, shalom, Ashbaka. Shalom, shalom. Love you.